Ward. Here. Blessing.
Here.
Fisher.
Here.
Knopfsinger.
Here.
Butler.
Here.
McNutt.
Here.
Armstrong.
Is there someone from the student council to lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Could you give us your name and your grades that you're in and a little bit about what student council has been doing?
I'm Connor Noonan, and I'm a junior.
I'm Emma Roberts, and I'm a junior.
I'm Lizzie Link, and I'm a senior.
I'm Emily Grugan, and I'm a senior.
So we just finished up with homecoming, which went very successful, and finished up with community night, and we raised close to $1,000 is the estimate. Right now we're selling bracelets, which we haven't done in the past, but that's to benefit Coach Brown and Mrs. Fuller, and we've been continuing selling those to at the games, and we're going to do it at future basketball games. And now we're working on starting a Boo Bash and getting into our committees for that. And then we are planning our future plans for the winter and fundraisers. So we've mentioned different like fundraisers like games to involve like the community to come watch and the high schoolers come play. So we have a dodgeball tournament plan that will probably go on. That's going to be a lot of fun. And we mentioned some things like a hot chocolate and donut day in the morning, food night, and the basketball game, coin wars, and a holiday assembly like we have in the past. And then for the spring, we planned vendor shows, powder puff volleyball, Mr. Panther, and vice versa dance.
Those sound like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
When is your Boo Bash?
What's that?
What day is your Boo Bash? Do you know
October
yet?
30th.
October 3rd.
October
It's a
30th?
Tuesday.
I know that's well attended. And people have been asking me when it is already, and I said, I'm not sure. So now I know. Well, thank you.
I do have a question for him. Do you know about how many people attend the homecoming dance?
It was 800 some
Yeah, we
tickets
say
sold.
100 tickets sold. Yeah, keep going.
Keep going.
Okay.
Keep going.
900.
Yeah, 900. The reason why I wanted to point that out, I don't think we have ever had that many students attend a dance here at WCHS.
Vice versa was a huge turnout too last year. It's on. We're going up in sales really.
Yeah.
It's a good sign.
It is. It really is.
Camaraderie.
Did anyone else have anything to add for the student council? Okay, we appreciate you coming in and filling us in on what's going on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to visitors and correspondence. Is there anyone else that would like to approach the board tonight? Okay, moving on to reports. 5.1, the audit report.
Okay, we have Mr. Matt Cook here with Cook Consultants. They did our audit. I'm going to turn it on over to him. He'll give his report.
Good evening. I will try to be brief, as I know you'll appreciate that. But as Dr. Sander just said, we did perform the audit of your June 30th, 2018 financial statements. And as part of that audit, we issued an unmodified opinion on the regulatory basis financial statements of the district. Unmodified opinion, some people refer to that as a clean opinion. And regulatory basis, that's a basis of accounting prescribed by the Illinois State Board of Education. It's not a GAAP basis financial statement, but one prescribed by the Illinois State Board of Education. So you've received a couple documents. One is the financial statement. That includes our audit opinions and our findings. You also received, the board received a letter that's communications from us, the auditor, to you, the board, that contains the required communications. I encourage you to read all of that at your leisure if you need help going to sleep, like Dr. Sanders said earlier. But there are some important things in there, particularly our opinions go over what an audit is and the limitations on an audit and things like that. I'm not going to talk about all of those things tonight. I'm going to hit a few highlights and then I'll turn it over back to you guys. The first thing I'll point out is the financials themselves. While we did propose a few reclassifications and adjustments to the financial records of the district, really the financial statements, the financial position, the financial activity has not changed significantly from what administration would have given you back in July when they reported for June. Obviously, the format has changed, but overall, the financial activity, the financial position should look very familiar to you and be what you expect, because we did not make significant changes, just some reclassification type stuff, basically. As far as the financials, just a benchmark. The Illinois State Board of Education hands out a financial profile score, and based off of your financial statements, the estimated score for you, and it's on a scale of up to 4, your score would be a 3.8, which is recognition status. That's the highest of the 4 statuses you can receive for that. So a 3.8 out of 4. The only area where you're actually not scoring a perfect 4.0 is the amount of debt you have outstanding versus the total amount you're allowed to issue. So that's the only area where you have less than 4. One thing I will say about that is, you've got a big project going on, and just so a note for next year, a lot of times when you have a big project in a year, that financial score will drop that year because it does, spending that much money in a single year affects some of the ratios that go into that score. So just a note for next year, don't be surprised if that drops a little bit. And if it doesn't, great. As far as our audit, we are not required to give an opinion on internal control, but as part of our audit, we look at the internal controls of the district to plan our procedures. And if we become aware of what is considered a material weakness in internal control, we have to disclose that as a finding. We did not find any items that we considered to be material weaknesses this year when we were performing our audit. However, if we do come across a deficiency in internal control that we feel needs to be brought to the board's attention, we are required to disclose that, and we have disclosed that as a finding. And that is, for those of you that have been here before, which I think is almost all of you, this will sound familiar, but basically the lack of ideal segregation of duties in accounting functions. In an ideal environment, you would have all your treasury and accounting functions segregated amongst multiple people or individuals, so that one person couldn't control an entire cycle or portions of a cycle. So the receipt, the deposit, the recording, the reconciliation of the same transaction. Administration has done a lot to segregate the duties that they can, but just the nature of the school, there are times when transactions don't occur frequently, or they're unique, a certain event, or if something needs to happen expeditiously, I don't even know if that's a word, that has to happen quickly. Sometimes people have access to do things that they don't normally do to make things happen, that kind of thing, where segregation of duties could be an issue. And so we just bring that to your attention. Again, we did not consider it a material weakness, but we do want you as the board to be aware of that risk. That's really all I have to say tonight. I don't have a lot to say because things were in very good shape, and you're financially 3.8 out of 4 is great. And, does anybody have any questions?
You did spell that out very carefully on page 50, the last page of our report, what you just referenced.
Yes, that is all that is in there, and more information on our audit opinion. So. And
we did get electronic copies of these too, so we did have a chance to review them.
Right.
And appreciate you sending those out. So.
Right, and then those will be available publicly here, I think, very soon. I think the ones you have are marked draft, the electronic ones, but those will go out as full versions very soon. So.
After we vote on it.
So. Any other questions? That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would just like to kind of tag on, thank you to our superintendent and assistant superintendent for doing such a nice job. Because that's not easy to do. When you go up to the school board conference and you listen to presentations and you realize some schools struggle through a lot of challenges, and this is nice, you clear this away and you can do the job that you're supposed to do. So thanks, guys.
Any other comments? Moving on to 5.2, the project report. PJ here.
Yes, we have Kirk Anderson, Brian Faulkner, Paul Curry, and Von Wagner all available to give us a report.
Well, thank you for having us here tonight. we're moving right along outside. I don't know how many of you were jumped the fence or wandered through the gate. We've got a lot of footings in. Foundation walls are being formed and getting poured. Autobahn's making some really good headway. The plan is to get the foundations done in about 3.5, 4 weeks. Then move into foundation waterproofing on the outside, getting the insulation inside and outside of the foundation wall and get backfilled. So then Summit Masonry can come in and scaffold and begin building exterior walls. Getting the plumber inside, putting all the plumbing in subgrade, and then kind of spinning from there. We have the project schedule. We're working through tweaking some of the sequence to get back some time and have a better chance of keeping work going through the winter. And in fact, we have another meeting tomorrow at 2 with all the contractors to kind of talk through the sequence, make sure that we're getting the sequence right. We're not putting the cart before the horse on anything. And then behind the scenes, it's been a flurry of submittals, which submittals are shop drawings, what contractors are going to build and provide. They provide those to us. Farnsworth reviews them, I review them, give our comments and notes and give approval, and then that's when they order materials. Contracts have all been signed by both parties, and payment performance bonds are coming in, insurance certificates, which I'm checking and making sure everybody has the right insurance amounts. And the first pay request will be on the docket for next month. So I'll be submitting that here at the end of the month, and we'll be off and rolling financially, I guess. Trying to think what else. That's about it.
Yeah, I think just a little update on the overall schedule. We met with the facilities committee last Thursday and explained to them that due to some, in the very, very beginning of the project, due to some inconsistencies in some dimensioning versus existing conditions, we did have a delay in the project at the beginning to make sure that was right. We have explained to the facilities committee, and we're explaining tonight, that we have a plan in place to do things a little bit different here now that we're getting so close to winter. Nothing that causes anything of any alarm structurally, or we have our architects and engineers behind us here to make sure of that. And we see absolutely no concern with the overall schedule with getting the addition, the renovation, and the bleachers done by the time school starts next August. So with that, we'll entertain any questions.
Dr. Freeman had also passed on that information from your meeting to the rest of the board too.
Great.
To keep us abreast.
Thank you.
When you say renovation, does that mean renovate the current band space
Correct.
into a new classroom?
Correct.
And that one will kind of play off of the addition.
Mm-hmm.
When the addition gets done exactly, and when the existing band and chorus equipment can be moved out, when we can start that renovation. We're hopeful that, the renovation itself can get done in the summer too, and that's what we're pushing for. So there'll just be a lot of logistics with the school as far as making that space available at the right time. So
We had quite a few questions in the facilities committee where we were able to ask you directly on some of the issues, and you did your due diligence of telling us how the plan is in place, and you're working through that with your subcontractors, and you guys are very good at what you do, so we're expecting you still to have your full project completion date on 7/29/19 on the timeline. And you don't want to move that yet unless there's some other thing with weather or something that comes under that. Just a cost concern of winterizing might be an issue that becomes available, but not knowing the weather in Illinois, we don't know what's going to happen. So we're hoping for a warm winter.
Yeah.
And we know that you guys can handle it. So I appreciate you bringing those concerns to us.
Do we have concerns about the cost, though? Is this going to affect the cost? Hopefully not to the district.
Correct. And internally, we're working with the subcontractors to determine what, if any.
Okay.
And correct.
I think last time we talked, you were still kind of looking into that a little bit.
yeah,
So
that process is still ongoing with the meeting tomorrow, and it takes a little bit of time to flesh all that out. And as far as winter costs go, you just never know what you're going to get. We were going to have some, likely anyway. We were going to have to heat the building and So it's just a matter of if we're going to have any additional extra costs and how you quantify that. But it's Illinois, so every job that we've done through winter, there's always been winter costs of some kind. So
So it's probably 80 today and maybe 40 tomorrow.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I believe we have 10% contingency built in, is that right?
5%.
5%,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And so have we eaten into the contingency yet?
So far, there's some pricings out there for some other issues, some changes. The two so far have been the change order for Southern Bleacher Company that you guys approved to build in the reserve seating, future reserve seating. And then there was a small, I think it was $2,800 to Kelly Glass for alternate bid 6 that wasn't accounted for in the contract. So it's about $13,000 out of the $250,000. And then we also put in two $20,000 allowances, so $40,000 total in 2 of the bid packages, just for kind of an extra layer of contingency.
Yep.
So we have $290 we're starting with, so.
Okay, good.
When you come up with some of the solutions and you change your timeline, would you be able to get that available to the board members?
Yes.
So that we can follow you along and where you are in the project?
Yep, we can do that.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming in, guys.
Sure.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Thank you.
Oh, okay.
5.3, the library grant, Tom Gross.
Good evening. Well, it is tradition this time of year for me to talk to you about the State Library Grant. It used to be at one time a requirement of me to get Dr. Freeman and many of your signatures on the school library grant, but it has been greatly simplified, so that is not the case anymore, but I like to take the opportunity to come and see you anyway. So, I have the power tonight. So, is regarding the grant, notification to submit the grant, fiscal year 2019 school district libraries grant, and the fiscal year 2017 expenditure report was submitted on September 20th, and I've received receipt from the Secretary of State's office that it has been received. And generally, we hear back sometime December to March whether we get that grant or not. As an example, last year's the FY18 grant, we were notified in January that we received that, and we will be receiving a check for $988.50. We have not received the check quite yet, but it's widely varying as to when that check comes in. Sometimes it's here almost immediately and spent really early, but it'll be here, I have no doubt. The formula for that, I've had people ask me in the past, is 75 cents per student with the minimum award of $750 to those school libraries programs that apply for the grant. So, and as far as I can look back in my files, librarians prior to me have always applied for this grant, as have I. So, in regard to the expenditure report, the fiscal year 2017 and years before that, since I've been here, as I've reported to you in the past, I generally purchase electronic sources for that, electronic electronic books for research, so reference type materials, things like that for the students. But I will say, when the 18 money comes in, I have earmarked a selection of books to purchase, physical books, print books, for the libraries. I've talked to you in the past. I have a 5-year weeding weeding plan that I've been working through, and I'm in year 3 this year of that. Just when I came in, one of the first things I noticed in this library was that the print collection really needs an update. A lot of titles falling below that 2000 line in publication. And when it comes to research and even just general fiction reading, the students in fiction want something newer than 2000 unless it's a classic of some sort. And with research, our teachers and students deserve to have a collection that is modern. And so in year 3 now, so the print books that I have earmarked are for, last year I weeded heavily the science, art, and sports area. And so those are the areas that I will be replacing some print materials in for, and I'll be using some of the state grant for that. So that's my report on the state grants. Now I'd like to take the opportunity to give a library report as well. And the funny thing is, in talking to the board for the last 4 years, and looking back at and researching my own notes in speaking to you, I've never talked about the personnel of the library here, and so I thought I'd take this year to talk about the personnel of the library, and I had to get special permission to put up a picture today. And so Mrs. Eisenberg is our library clerk, and of course I am the librarian. She said, "You're not putting a picture up there without you in there." And so I said, "Okay, I've got 2 pictures that I think are acceptable for both of us." And so here we are. So if you don't know Mrs. Eisenberg, there she is. But I want to talk a little bit about her. I've referenced her in the past, but never really given you information as a board about who she is and the jobs that she does here and how valuable she is to our library and school. She informed me that, well, I knew she'd been here for quite a while, but she told me today that she came to work as the library clerk here in February of 1998. So what that means is that in February of this, well, really it should have been last year, but there will be a sheet cake this February, for sure. But she also informed me that prior to that, she was subbing here since 1996. So Mrs. Eisenberg has been with WCHS for quite some time. She has a library technical assistance degree from ICC, which I'm proud to say that I sit on the advisory board of that degree program at ICC. She also does lots of professional development through our Resource Sharing Alliance, which is the organization that maintains our online catalog. And then she also does professional development, a lot of it online, through our library system, which is the RAILS library system. That acronym is Reaching Across Illinois Library System. It's basically the Northern Illinois section of libraries. And so she does lots of professional development through them. A couple things of note is this summer she won for the 2nd consecutive year an award that is not a real, I mean, it's a real award to me and to anyone that's in the library world, but there's no plaque or anything like that or trophy. But she found the most of all the libraries in the Resource Sharing Alliance group. She found and corrected the most error or incomplete book records in the catalog. And last year it was well over 50. I think the number was 59, 60, 61, and somewhere in that area. She doesn't remember. And that's the 2nd year in a row she's done that. To give you a little reference, 2nd place had 45, and even further reference, I had 3. So now, to her credit, what the way she discovers them is in our weeding process. She goes ahead of me and pulls all the books off the shelf that I'm going to be examining for weeding, and she makes sure that it has a proper record, that has a proper dollar amount, and everything in the online catalog. And then her second level of check on that is to make sure it's a proper record, because there are other libraries, whether we're keeping the book or not, there are other libraries that have those. And so she, going above and beyond her duties, checks those records and makes sure that they're accurate. And so she informed me this morning she's already got 37 this year. So another note is that because of her professional development and longevity as a school library clerk, she is the only school librarian in the whole Resource Sharing Alliance, and that's close to 200 libraries and school libraries. She is the only school librarian that's allowed and given access to enter new book records into the catalog because of all the potential errors that could go along with that. But she's been trained and has enough longevity that she's got that. The benefit to us, and why it's a big deal to me, is that when we get materials in for our students or our staff that we're going to put under our collection, we can get those in right away. Our students and staff do not have to delay and wait for that. And sometimes it can take months waiting for a public librarian to put that record in, or waiting for the 2 employees at the RSA to get that record put in. And so we as a district, and really it's a benefit to the entire Resource Sharing Alliance, but we can get our books in immediately if it's not already in the catalog. And that's what I do. I put them into the catalog, but if it's not in there, I pass it to the desk over and she gets it in there really well. So I wanted to note that. She handles all the discipline in the library, especially at the times that I'm not here. She's the person that executes almost all of our promotions in the library because she is in here, so she takes care of the Teen Read Week, the trivia contests, the Band Book Week events, International Games Week, Paperback Book Month, all of the events. She really is the point person for all of those in the library. And so that's a huge, huge task that she takes on. She also manages about 90% of the data collection that we do here in the library, and she presents that information to me. So tonight what I want to do is share with you 3 of the reports. There are about 6 or 7 reports that I really look at on a regular basis to determine the pulse of how the library is running on a semi-annual to annual basis. And I wanted to share some of those with you. So one of them is our material checkouts. Now, you're going to look at some of these graphs, and if you're like me before I was in education in the business world and like selling advertising or something like that, you're going to look at some of these graphs and think, whoa, wrong direction. But I'll explain a little bit. They actually are headed in the right direction. So in our library materials checkouts, you'll notice that, now, the 18-19, of course, that's an incomplete. I entered it anyway just to show you the trend and where we are right now, 2 months into the school year. But so when you look at that one that's really low in the last category, obviously that is not a full year. So looking at 17-18 as our last full year. In this one you will see that material checkouts have gone down slightly and these are all the years that I've been here, by the way. I did not go past, and prior to me I feel like I've been here long enough that I don't need to be comparing to how things were before me. So I think a trend that you're seeing here, there's a couple different things that we're looking at here, is in 15-16, there were some really trending, young adult literature was really trending in the dystopia genre, and there were a ton of books that kids wanted to read during that time. And right now we're sitting in a place where we don't have a ton of literature. I mean, we have a ton of literature being made into movies, but it's all like spread across genres, and so we don't have like one focus that everybody's flocking to the library to get. It's a hot book or a hot book here in like realistic fiction, and they're circulating, but not at those peak levels. A second reason for that decline is a choice on my part, and I take responsibility for it, but I also have to make some decisions with just 2 of us here in the library. My first 2 years, I was doing heavy book talks in classrooms, especially freshman PAC classes, and with study hall students. And my time for that just doesn't allow for as much of that. I still do the book talks in a lot of those classes, just not on the regular basis that I had been my first 2 years here. And so it's just a choice that I made, that I don't get in there on a regular, and really I hit them a lot right now, but then where I was really benefiting from those high numbers, I think, were my repeat visits with new literature throughout the entire year. And my schedule just doesn't allow for as much of that. Still, again, I still do it, but just not to the detail. So that could be a reason why. If that continues to trend down, I'll have to really reevaluate those book talks and see about bringing more of those back into the library curriculum, or maybe finding another way of bringing books into students' hands. But that's still, for a school our size, those are pretty solid numbers when I compare to other schools. Another one that I look at a lot is our library attendance. And this one I really am pleased with the way this one looks. In 2014-15, I was evaluating the way our library was being used, and I was kind of going with the trends of how the library is being used before I came. I wanted to see how things were going, and it was the students that would visit the library, it was more of a kind of a take-a-break lounge type setting, students coming out of study hall to kind of get out of that setting and sort of have more small groups to be able to talk and socialize in. And it wasn't setting a vision for the type of library that I had wanted. The type of library that I was looking at was more of an academic library, where students were using the library to come and see me for consultation on research, for consultation on writing, and other types of curricula that fit into the library curriculum. And then I also wanted students to coming in here that are, again, on an academic level of coming here to spread out and study and really dive deep into their studies. And so we see a little tick down on that one, but you notice that it stayed pretty steady across the board. So what I look at here is I have to make a choice between, do I want quantity of students in here, or do I want quality of time and how students are using it in here? And so I'm going with the quality of time and the engagement of students in here. So I see fewer students, but higher engagement of the students that are in here. And so as long as that line keeps going across like that, maybe even a little, as our population grows, maybe a little uptick as well, I'll be pleased with that. And so library attendance is one of them, and then this is the one I love. And I've talked to you about these numbers before, but I really wanted to put in visual. Another reason for maybe our downtick in the print materials could be this, and I'm guessing a lot of it probably is. These are our database numbers, and the numbers of 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, those are login sessions by students. These aren't how many times they searched for something while they were logged in. This is how many times a student logged in to our databases. And so you'll notice.
School, and I know that takes time and energy to put grants together, so I appreciate that, and the whole board does.
Especially Project Chris, because that's vital to our quality of teaching.
Always enjoy your presentations.
I want to join the book club, but
You're always welcome.
On the book club, do they actually physically buy the book, or do they do it with a book network?
They do. Book club does a fundraiser in the spring, and then what we do is, based on that fundraiser, the students pay $4 for the book, and then book club covers the rest of the costs. So it remains sustainable that way, but the students are paying well below the cost of the book. But it also gives ownership, I feel, when they are actually purchasing that book, rather than the book club just buying all the books and saying, here you go. It kind of demeans the value of it. And so when the students are buying it, whether it's them or their parents buying it, it's ownership. And I think I get more students reading the books because of that. So yeah.
Well, I was just curious if kids are only reading electronic versions, but they actually are physically opening a book to read it in your book club.
I found that when it comes to fiction books, they want a print book. And when it comes to research, they want an electronic version.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Any other questions? Well, great presentation. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And I apologize. I have to excuse myself. I have a daughter to pick up in Peoria in about 15 minutes. So I'm going to head out. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on. Let's see. We're at the Dean's report. That was in the
Yep,
packet?
we have it in the packet. The enrollment report is part of that, so.
Moving on to 5.5, financial report, Dr. Joe Sandberg.
Okay, each one of the board members has one of the financial statements that's for your review. Give me a second to bring this up on Excel format. Right here is our investment report. We're just sitting underneath $9 million. When I drop down to the insurance, this is our last year numbers up through August 31st. And so, we're just shy of where we were last year. And this is an updated graph. The change in line reflects the monthly income due to the premium changes. And so our monthly income is a little bit less than what it was last year. But if you average everything out, we're tracking quite well for this year's expenditures. I do want to make note that Ms. McNutt has in her folder to sign, we will be having a board hearing to transfer funds. And as the contractor said tonight, that we will start getting bills. And so we'll need to transfer funds from the O&M fund and then from our, not bond and interest, working cash into the capital projects so we can start making payments on some of the projects that are taking place. So that will take place next month. And it'll happen right at 7 o'clock. We'll have a brief hearing to go through that. Shouldn't take very long. On a side note, I am still trying to learn the new financial program and trying to find out a good way to mine the data for you. The reports right now are about 20 to 50 pages long, and I didn't want to give you that. And so I'm still I'm getting a little bit closer, but hopefully I can get something that is modified like this. That's one page snapshot of where we're at. But I hope to have something a little bit cleaner for you, but it's just taking me some time getting used to the new software program on it. Do you have any questions?
That has been signed. Dr. Sanders.
Oh, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
There you go.
You'll see a notice in the paper saying that to author, that we'll be having a board hearing on that.
I'm sure the subcontractors will be putting their bills in releasing the money.
We'll be releasing money.
Okay. Okay, moving on to 5.6, board committee reports. We had a couple committees meet, was insurance and facilities, insurance. Did you have any updates that
We had
that
that one, Bonnie, I was not.
No,
Yeah, insurance was very uneventful. We did look at a new program that it's complimentary through GPS. It's called Springbuck. And it's a very robust data mining program. And so what we'll be able to do with that is use that. It's analytic software that looks at our claim histories, and it gives you some projections on where you'll be in the future, and then also where you could possibly save some money on that insurance plan. And so we had a presentation on that. And so it's like how everything else is going nowadays. It's all data driven. Past practices and just where we're at in our history and our claims. A lot of it is preventative. And so there's a big push on that. And they do they call that a gap in coverage. So if you don't have people going and doing the basic screenings, that could lead to higher costs later if something is found. And so it is a neat software. It's pretty simple to get into, and we look forward to having more information through that and using that to help drive our decisions for the insurance committee.
appreciate that update. Facilities, we had quite a conversation about with PJ here and Farnsworth was both there and gave us update with the timeline, and then they were working through some solutions to different things that had happened. One thing we talked about was having a walkthrough, and all of you are welcome to come to see the projects outside and how they're going through. It was pretty windy the day we were here, and decided to post it for tomorrow at 3:30. So, of course, it might be raining tomorrow at 3:30, but
If that happens, we'll probably postpone it 24 hours and go on Thursday. Would be my guess.
okay, we'll hopefully it's not raining. But the other thing, they gave us an update on the roofs that was repaired and that's completed. What do we call that? The U-roof area? Horseshoe. And then that's about all I had for that. Was there anything else? Facilities with the projects.
Oh, the tank.
We talked about.
We're going to talk about the tank later, right?
Yes.
We did. Yeah, Joe's been working on this tank for a few years, so I didn't have that on there. Anything else while we were discussing? You're welcome to join us tomorrow at 3:30.
Was the roof all checked out?
They were just finishing up the last of it, and the punch list, I believe, is done now. Is that correct?
It should be done. I'll get confirmation from Ryan. By last Friday, they were supposedly going to finish up on the final items. We were down to like 2 or 3 items that just needed to be addressed. And so I'll get a final report from Ryan from Garland Roofing, and then I'll get that pushed out to the board, and then we'll release payment for Crown. But I do have to give a plug to the contractor. Kryling Roofing has been excellent to work with. We've really had hardly any issues, and doing roof work can be kind of messy and sloppy, but they've kept the area clean, and they've been true professionals in the whole project.
Last Saturday was a pretty good check with that storm that blew
Yep.
through and big rain,
Yes.
so hopefully we're in good shape now.
I'm not going to say anything about it.
Moving on to discussion items and informational items. 6.1, resignation of other board secretary.
There's a resignation. You know, hate to see her go. At the same time, we did pick up an excellent replacement in Debbie Osborne, who is here tonight.
Welcome, Debbie. Hello. Resignation of Amy Payne for cafeteria worker. Resignation of Carrie Lopez, secretary for the township, correct? She was?
Yes, and you'll see her in the hires later, so she moved from one position to another.
Okay. Then we had a couple FOIA requests, 6.4, the FOIA for HBO Real Sports wanted some information.
They're doing a report on high school athletics.
Okay.
So we've kind of emailed back and forth after the FOIA.
They just had some questions.
Yeah.
And then a FOIA for Smart Procure. PO vendor information? That was just some information they wanted?
This is about the third time that they've done this, and I anticipate about every 6 months they'll be hitting this up for, it's just vendor information.
Okay. 6.6, leadership and master board member program recognition. And we have some of that coming up.
So we have included in your packet, you can see that there are 3 level 1 master board members on this board, Brad Butler, Jennifer Essig, and Brian Fisher. Outstanding. Also, master board member maintained by Mrs. Ward. So we have 4 of our 7 board members who've gone through this process, and it takes a bit of work, so it's really great to have that here. It tells you the level of expertise and consideration for what you do.
When is the fall meeting?
Tomorrow night. Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You do learn quite a bit. You do learn quite a bit at those meetings and take away networking, and then I think the one tomorrow night is going to talk about safety.
And this will be the first one in this in a long time.
And then we can move on to 6.7. The only other I had was we need to keep in mind the goal planning session coming up, and look for your emails to respond to what days in January you're available. I know we said something out and it ended up being a holiday, and so we've got to reevaluate that, but keep your dates open for that.
I'll get a couple dates too, probably in the Friday letter, and, well, weekend update. Officially, I can now call it the weekend update. Doesn't always make it on Friday.
I think we gave you that extra.
You did, and I greatly appreciate it. It's made life a little easier.
That was quite a push for you sometimes.
Is there any other? Anybody wants to talk about?
I do have a question to the board. It's not a big business item, but first of all, Heather not only worked for the administration, Heather also really helped our board a lot too. So I got a card just wishing her well as she takes on a new endeavor. And I just wondered if the board would just sign it, and I'll write a little note on it, mail it to her. And I also bought 2 cards, one for Polly Fuller and one for Kevin Brown, because I think it would be nice if we just sent them an appropriate card with all of our signatures and a note to each of them as they go through their health issues from the board and all the board members to wish them well. So if you would like to sign the left-hand side, I'll write a note then to them on the right-hand side and mail these to all 3 of those people. Okay. So I'll just send this around.
Thanks for doing that for you.
We can track down Mr. Armstrong, because I'm sure he'll be back.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda, hold on, let me bring this up here. That would be approving the minutes of 7.11, approve the school board policy committee meeting minutes of September 6, 2018. 7.12, approve the regular board meeting minutes of September 10, 2018. Approve the minutes of 7.13, executive session meeting minutes of September 10, 2018. 7.2 would be the bills, activity account balance sheet, activity account transaction, impress account, and board report. And 7.3, accept the fiscal year 18 audit report. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Corrections to the minutes? We've made those few corrections that were incorrect, and they are correct now. I looked at it.
Mr. Fisher gave me a heads up, and we were able to get that in order before it came here.
Thanks for doing it, because I saw it wrong, and then I never got a chance to call you or email you, so.
I'm always happy to pass around.
Okay. Appreciate that. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
McNutt?
Yes.
Armstrong? Ward?
Yes.
Essig? Yes. Fisher?
Yes.
Knopfinger?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries, thank you. Moving on to action items for personnel, certified employment, 8.11. This would be Employment of Melissa Redding as the long-term substitute science teacher from December 10, 2018 through approximately March 4th of 2019, as per diem is listed as recommended for employment. Is there a motion to accept Melissa Redding as a long-term sub?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion?
We're very fortunate to have a highly experienced teacher come back to fill this position.
Who is she?
Retired science teacher.
Well, no, who she replaced, kind of.
Oh. She's replacing Mrs. Lynn.
Oh, because she's out for maternity, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Knopfinger,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
McNutt,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Essing,
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
Roll call, thank you. Motion carries. Can't talk two different
I know,
conversations.
I apologize.
Okay, moving on to non-certified employment. We have 8.12, approve employment of Carrie Lopez as special aide for the 2018 school year per rate as recommended for employment. 8.12B, approve employment of Nancy Bevins as job coach as a rate recommended for employment. Approved employment of Debbie Osborne, the secretary to the superintendent, at the rate per recommended as employment. 8.12D, improve the employment of Jean Brown, the cafeteria worker, for the rate of recommended by employment. And then approve the employment of Evan Eichelkraut as crossing guard at the rate per recommended for employment. Is there a motion to approve the recommendations under action items 8.12A, 8.12B, 8.12C, 8.12D, and 8.12E as recommended?
So moved. As presented.
Second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Essing,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Knopfinger,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
McNutt,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes. Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to extracurricular employment. That would be and those, let me bring it up, hold on just a moment. Of Carol Jordan, costume coordinator, 8.13A, recommending Carol Jordan as the costume coordinator for the 2018-19 school year at the rate as recommended per employment. Is there a motion to approve as suggested, as presented? So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion? She's for the costume coordinator.
For our plays and the madrigals.
Musical.
Okay, roll call, please.
Butler,
Yes.
McNutt,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Essing,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Knopfinger,
Yes.
Okay, motion carries, thank you. 8.13B is approve employment of Margaret Kuchin as an art club co-sponsor for the 2018 school year as a rate per recommended as employment. Is there a motion for recommendation of Margaret Kuchin as an art club coordinator as presented?
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion?
Yes, our club has increased in size pretty tremendously. We can no longer house it in one room. We have to have co-sponsors so that we have people present where the students are. So that's why.
That's nice.
That is good.
Roll call, please.
Ward,
Yes.
Essing,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Knopfinger,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
McNutt,
Yes.
Motion carries, thank you. 8.2 is I'd like to make a motion to waive the reading of the second reading. Oh, missed one, sorry. 8.14, approve the leave of absence for Polly Fuller. Is there a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
Second. Motion is second. Roll call, please.
Butler,
Yes.
McNutt,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Essing,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Knopfinger,
Yes.
Motion carries, thank you. Now I can move on to make a motion to waive the reading for the second reading for the district policy 4.25. Is there a motion to waive the reading?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Roll call. Roll call, please.
Knopfinger,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
McNutt,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Essing,
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
Just lost my- okay. So now we're going on to approve the second reading for the district policy. Is there a motion to approve the district policy 4.25 for the use of the Illinois County School Facility occupation tax receipts as presented?
I move.
Motion? Second. Second?
I'll throw some discussion. Dr. Sander, could you open up the attachment that says clean, policy 425, clean PDF? There you go. In that middle section, what changed was this. Remember the original that we brought in last month had 40%. So we had talked as a group and it was determined that we wanted to increase that amount to 50%. 50% is reflected in there. So the goal of the Board of Education is to use no less than 50% of all revenue received. The other thing that we talked about doing is a review cycle. So that last sentence in that paragraph takes care of the review cycle question, which is the board will review the amount allocated towards abatement biannually starting in fiscal year 2020 during the district's annual budgetary process. I think those were the two additional things, and we want to make sure that we called that out so that people understood the changes.
That reads much better than how it did prior to that. So thanks for cleaning that up, and it'll be a policy in place if the 1% passes in November, correct?
So this reads that we will use no less than 50%? I thought we
Yes.
used to be no more than 50%.
There's no less, you could go more than 50% to
okay.
abate.
So it says the board is going to use no less.
So it would have to be 50%.
Yes, to abate.
To abate.
Any further discussion? Okay. Roll call, please.
Fisher,
Yes.
Knopfinger,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
McNutt,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Essing.
Yes.
Motion carries. Moving on to 8.3, I'd like to waive the reading, the second reading, the Press Plus issues 97, 98. Is there a motion to waive the reading?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Roll call, please.
Essing,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Knopfinger,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
McNutt,
Yes.
Ward.
Yes. Okay, motion carries. Now we can approve the second reading of the Press Plus issues 97, 98 as presented. Is there a motion to accept approve the second reading?
So moved.
Second. Motion and second. Any discussion? Those were just cleaning up quite a bit loose ends from 3 months ago, I guess we discussed that. Okay, roll call, please.
McNutt,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Essing. Yes. Fisher,
Yes.
Knopfinger,
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Motion carries. Moving on to 8.4, and that is about the tanks, and the recommendation is the Board of Education comes from Facilities Committee meeting. We talked about the tanks, should authorize the superintendent to work with MEP Engineering to develop specifications for the removal of an underground fuel storage tank. So since that's coming from committee, we don't need to have a motion in a second, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Did anybody have any questions about what this is? We've talked about this for a few years, so I don't know if the new board members aren't aware of it, but
It's a long-term
yeah.
discussion.
It's a 20,000 gallon tank.
No, 2,000.
2,000.
Oh.
Too many numbers. 2,000 gallon tank that sits kind of at the end of the Ashbrook Hall. It's underground, that's how we fuel our buses, so. But it's been in the ground since
85 was the installed.
so we need to get it out of the ground.
So it's coming from recommendation from Facilities Committee. Is there a motion to approve the superintendent to work with the MEP Engineering to develop specifications for the removal of the underground fuel storage tank located east of the Ashbrook building?
I move.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Butler,
Yes.
McNutt,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Essing. Yes. Fisher,
Yes.
Knopfinger.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, then our last item on the agenda tonight is 8.5, is the authorization to dispose of district property cheerleading uniforms.
We did this with the band uniforms, and the band boosters use it as part of it as a revenue source. And so the cheerleading sponsors, we have Ms. Solberger in the audience. She's one of our sponsors that came to me, and I said, well, let's go ahead and put this on so if you have questions, you can ask her. But basically, these are rough numbers of some of the uniforms that they'd like to clear out, and they're going to coordinate offering these. They're going to have a cheerleading camp, I believe. Is it
December, December 2nd.
Okay, so in coordination with the cheerleading camp, they'll have parents here and kids. What a great way to, offer those up. I think $5 or $10, and even the palms. I think they'll go, and what doesn't go, then we'll just dispose of. But the money will then go back to the cheerleading program.
And the real cheerleaders have worn that now these smaller, younger kids.
Yes.
Nice way to recycle them too, because, yeah.
And if there's any moms out there that used to be cheerleaders and they'd like to buy the old uniforms, or the uniforms, then they can come in and purchase them.
Is there a motion to approve the district personal property as listed that's no longer needed for the school purposes?
So moved.
Second. Roll call, please.
Knopfinger,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
McNutt,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Essing. Yes. Fisher.
Yes.
Motion carries. That's the end of our board meeting. There's no executive session. Next one is November 12th. Oh, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting tonight?
Before we do that, congratulations to all the new masters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Roll call, please.
Motion.
Oh.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Essing.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
Knopfinger.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
McNutt.
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.